Part 1, Chapter 9, Guarded. After the final bell, I fast-walked all the way to the lunchroom, hoping to find Tansu already there waiting. Every student I passed seemed like empty glass replicas, dolls, existing only as peripheral visual fluff. Lifeless, in a way. It occurred to me that, again, Stacy had yet to strike me down. 2 days this week. That is exceedingly rare. In my experience, that only means she's plotting something big. The last time I had a lull longer than a day was 2 years ago for my 13th birthday. On that day, she broke into my locker and left a rotten fish all over a stack of books I had in there. Some sketchbooks, short stories I was reading, and textbooks. She had jammed my lock so I couldn't get in, allowing the putrid stench to permeate and saturate everything within. Needless to say, all of those books were destroyed by rotten fish grease, and the sweatshirt I had hanging inside had to get thrown away because the smell just wouldn't come out. They never proved who actually did it, and Stacy never admitted it or gave me any indication that it was, in fact, her, but no one else would have done something so disgusting. This thought shot to the back of my mind when I arrived at the open double doors. The lunchroom was somewhat populated with some random cliques. Kids with darker clothes and aesthetics huddled in the corner by the soda machine, chatting and listening to a small radio. A table of athletics dressed in gear, I guessed, was waiting for the rest of their buddies so they could go play sports outside. Random single kids were scattered at lonely tables, and Tansu was one of them. She sat closer to the doors I was standing at, head low and reading something. I didn't approach right away. I chose, instead, to listen to the hum of the after-hours collective. A mutually respectful volume and spacing, no one griefing anybody else and just minding their own business. She finally noticed me absorbing the ambience and gave a fragile wave. I waved back, checked behind me out of sheer paranoia, and then motioned forward. "You got here fast," I said, closing the distance and setting my bag on the floor close by. She shrugged. "I didn't stop at my locker, and no one blocked my way." I sat opposite her and used my foot to secure my bag a little closer. "What time are your parents picking you up?" She closed the notebook and set it aside. "My mom said she'd be here around 4:30. I think she's running errands." "Sweet. Anything you want to tackle for schoolwork, or do you just want to talk?" She visibly pondered. "Let's talk." My brows raised. "All right. Do you have any questions for me?" Her hair bounced with a quick nod. "What's your favorite color?" I chuckled at the simplicity. Favorite color? I think it's tied with red and black. They're pretty close. What about you? A tie as well, but I lean more towards green than blue. Fair enough, I said. I think you can tell a lot about a person by their favorite color. I leaned forward, crossing my arms over the table and supporting myself with my elbows. And what does red and black say about me? You've got a temper. A chuckle. I'm joking. I don't know what it says about anyone specifically, just an inkling. You mean like how anyone named Chad is a dick automatically? Her nostril flared with a stout laugh. Something like that. She folded both her hands on her lap under the table, sitting straight with aligned shoulders and a polite demeanor. I never really noticed how slobby or lazy I could be until contrasted against someone else. Self-conscious, I sat up a little more and cleared my throat. So, where did you move here from? I asked, trying not to sound like I was prying. She answered plain. Rhode Island. Then her eyes lowered, and her posture reduced the slightest amount. I'm looking forward to autumn up here. If it's anything like home, I'll get to fill my camera with photos. You have a camera? Lucky. I'd settle for one of those $10 film ones you get on field trips. It's nothing special. My dad got it for me a couple years ago when we went to the zoo. I haven't used it in a while. Her tone flattened, outlining some texture related to perhaps her old life that led me to believe it was a tender topic. Tansu, if I ask anything you don't want to talk about, you can tell me, okay? She nodded, her plush lips flexing. It's all right. Ask away. I wasn't convinced. Still, I bit my lip and tested the waters. I was just wondering, did you leave behind any close friends? I think she attempted sarcasm, but slipped somewhere in the middle and just sounded somber. Don't I seem like the popular type? She half chuckled, but it trailed off. I only ask because I don't know, you seem burdened by social interactions. The connotation behind my words wasn't fully considered, and my lax, almost sad way of speaking might have given the wrong assumption. She leaned back. I had some friends, but it's always been a little hard for me to find my voice, she said, hushed. I've probably already been replaced. Her eyes drifted to the side. Sorry, I'm not trying to be insensitive or anything. I'm not so good at this either. A bit out of practice, actually. I just want to paint a clear picture of who you are. Because I was thinking that maybe I reminded you of someone you knew, and that's why you didn't run from me in the hallway. Individual black strands shifted loosely with a gentle shake of her head, reminiscent of the time I straightened my hair because I thought Joey hated my waves. Her elbows pressed against her ribs, and her chest rose up and out with a big intake of air. She let it out, slow and calculated. You remind me of some, but more in how you're different. In a good way. The color blue painted my mind, cool and calm, inviting if only I was careful of where I stepped. That's how it felt, and I don't trust my footing. A cautious pivot. Are you more of a TV person or a movie person? Her chin raised slightly, and she looked at me. Intrigue and gratitude emboldened her eyes. A tiny smirk. Movies. Definitely. I nodded. Me too. I hope your preferred genre goes beyond scary stuff. She brought her hands up onto the table and cupped them over and under one another. I'll watch almost anything. I just like the art of movies. The music perfectly aligned with a carefully directed scene, the immersive nature of powerful emotions, the foreshadowing noticed on a second or third watch. Her words slowed. Clearly, a multitude of examples played in her head. Meanwhile, I took a long look at her hands, how thin her fingers and knuckles were, so soft with perfectly trimmed nails and fingers came to an acutely rounded tip. There appeared to be a clear coat of matte nail polish, and her cuticles were undamaged. Again, I looked at my own hands and saw ugly, boyish features. Wider knuckles with thin digits, chewed edges on most of my nails, and stubby tips. I hid them under my folded arms. What sort of hobbies do you have? I blew raspberries, thinking, damn, not that many. I like to draw and listen to music. Long walks through the woods are always relaxing. I'd read more if I owned more than a few old books that I've read a dozen times each. Besides school and sitting at home, I don't do a lot. That sounded a lot more pathetic out loud than in my own internal justifications. She blinked, looking almost surprised. Don't you have friends to go places with? I shook my head, laughing at myself. I got, just a couple people I consider friends, most of which are just school friends. No, I don't get to see anyone outside of school because my dad's a hard ass and freaks out if I'm not home. My head wobbled. And, well, he kind of freaks out when I'm home, too. He's a freak out kind of guy. I said all that with a sardonic flair, but the hurt I conveyed wasn't as buried as I thought. I drummed twice on the table and then pointed a finger gun in her direction, directing her to speak. What about you? Hobbies? She kept staring, dissecting every short mental pathway I carved with such a short descriptor. I realized how bad I made it sound, how hostile it came off. She wasn't responding to my question. so I asked another. Do you have any pets? She scratched her hand and returned them under the table. I had a cat for about 2 weeks when I was younger, but my mom was allergic, so we had to get rid of her. She was a tabby named Sherbet. Man, allergies must suck to have. But it's not just that. My mom's immunocompromised and has asthma. She has to be very careful every day. Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry you couldn't keep her. It's okay. We actually gave her to a boy in my grade, and I was allowed to visit from time to time. How nice of him. I wish I could have a pet. I'd take anything. A dog, a cat, a damn fish. I chuckled. Something that might even greet me when I get home from school. Well, not the fish, I guess. Yeah, never mind. No fish. She giggled, and in turn my smirk grew wider. I glanced at the clock on the wall behind her. Whoa, has it been 30 minutes already? I gawked. She took my word for it and reached for the notebook beside her, dropping it into her bag and then recentering on me, talking while she moved around. It's been an eventful day. I think it went well. I'm sure I was a better tour guide than Nick Trenton. You were great. I really appreciate all of your help, she said with a blip of enthusiasm, though I could tell she was getting tired from all the walking and talking. So, overall, Tansu, how are you liking this place? The school and town, I mean. She held her answer for a moment, marinating it carefully. When she did speak, it was with approving eyes. From what I've seen of the area, I feel welcome. The bank, the post office, convenience stores, and all of the passerbys are nice and hospitable. Though you're the only person besides teachers that have given me any notice here, and I'm all right with that. My head tilted. Do you even want to make friends? Or are you more comfortable alone? Because if I should stop bothering you, I'd rather you tell me now, you know? She shuffled in her seat, wringing her hands. My mom has always been my closest friend. She's all I really need at the start and end of every day. A genuine smile and jealous blush came over me. My eyes lit up at how precious that was, then diverted with selfish sadness. I reset and defaulted to somewhere in the middle, leaning towards joyful for her. That's so sweet. Your mom sounds awesome. She's the best. I don't know what I'd do without her. Then she got this alerted jolt and looked straight at me, slumping again and hastily speaking. You said you walk in the woods? Are there any hiking trails close by? Skeptical of her sudden switch, I squinted and swallowed my words. It's like she anticipated my next question about her family and preemptively dodged it. My mind went on a quick journey of curiosity, leaving my tone lacking. Beats me. I just walk in circles behind my house. Otherwise, my dad would actually hunt me down if I wandered too far. I'm sure you could visit the town office and get some info on something like that. She opened her mouth to speak, then looked past me. I noticed and followed her eyes through the front glass doors that led to the parking lot and bus drop-off. Someone was walking up to the school. I looked back at her, and she was already zipping her bag tight and hoisting it over her shoulder. I raised my chin with her standing and asked, "What's up?" "My mom is coming. She's early." I swallowed, and immediately my heart began racing. Oh, all right. We were both standing now. I collected my bag and observed her brushing the folds of her nice shirt and becoming somehow more loose and rigid at the same time. She seemed a little uncomfortable. Is something wrong? I asked. My asking seemed to be the permission she was looking for. Not wrong, but could you do me a favor and not swear around her? That caught me by surprise, and an awkward grin crept across my face. Do I really swear that much? Not really, but enough. News to me. It's just how I talk. She just isn't a fan. Please? You don't have to say please. I'll bite my tongue. Don't worry about it. The familiar sound of the front doors opening and causing a pressurization effect in the lobby called both our attention. I got my first good look at her as she spotted Tansu past me and made her way toward us. She was at least 4 inches taller than me and maybe in her late 30s, for what I could tell. Small crow's feet around her eyes, but nothing much to distract you from her pretty face. One that was almost an exact copy of Tansu, with mature features and more defined by her Asian heritage. She appeared astute and confident in the way she walked, with her arms straight at her side and a long purse strap hanging off her shoulder and pressed against her hip. She wore a blue swoop neck cardigan that was buttoned all the way up, long enough to extend past her waistline and partially covered her gray tapered pants. Her hair was the same shade as Tansu's, but much less jagged, overall straighter and neatly kept. Long enough to go a little past her shoulders, and her bangs were soft and mostly pushed to one side. I stared with a weird feeling bubbling in my gut. Something I felt hundreds of times before, at the store, in the parking lot, at school events and sports games whenever my dad would be bothered to take me. That same feeling I get when I see a complete family spending time together. I don't know what came over me, but I had to sharply sniffle the dripping from my nose as sudden hot tears brimmed my eyes. I exhaled and wiped them away, smiling as Tansu curved around me and got in front. "Tansuki, are you ready to go?" she asked, at the same time partially eyeing me with blatant curiosity. "Yes, but first, I want to introduce you to Kim. She's my friend." The way she said friend was almost as if that single word was in a different language, and she didn't quite know how to pronounce it. I gave a frail smile, shyness completely taking over. "Hello." Her mouth opened a little in surprise. She fully looked at me and started silently picking apart every little detail, though I didn't feel scrutinized, more appreciated, if that's the right word. Deep down I was already prepared to be judged, cast aside as undesirable. Instead, she nodded and greeted me kindly. "Hello, Kim. It's nice to meet you. I'm very pleased to see my daughter has already made a friend." She was extremely polite and precise with her words. I felt bad for not coming off as more welcoming. "She's great," Tansu exclaimed, suddenly a lot more lively. "She's been helping me learn about the school and showed me around today." "That's wonderful. I would love to get more acquainted, Kimberly, but I'm afraid that we'll have to wait until another time. Tansuki and I have errands to run." "I thought you were doing everything before you came to get me. Why are you early anyway?" Tansu questioned. "The bank closes at 5, and there's more to be done to transfer your savings account," she vocalized. "Oh, did they finally figure out what the problem was?" Her mom smiled wide. "I suppose we'll see, won't we?" Tansu paused and looked at me with a particularly contemplative expression. At first I couldn't figure out what she was thinking, but as soon as her question came out, I realized. "Do you think maybe Kim can come over soon? Or maybe I can go over to her house?" Her mom got a surprised look, almost matching my own. Then her gracious smile appeared once again. "Of course. Sometime soon." Flattered and ignoring the pit in my stomach, I compressed into myself and said, "Thank you, ma'am." Tansu shuffled over to her side, peering around at the few other kids who remained and settling on me with a shy smile. "Bye-bye." "See you later," I said back. They walked away from me toward the front door and left without another word. I don't know what I feel right now, watching them disappear behind the walls and leave me with so many lingering sensations. A flutter in my chest contrasted the burdened pit in my gut, inside out, backward, wrong, fulfilled, justified, excited, conflicted. I stewed with everything for a minute or two, just staring off into space and letting it all race through my veins. Once I found my center again, I walked over to the line that divided the office lobby and lunchroom and turned to face the lunchroom. I let my eyes wander freely, unsure of exactly what I should be doing right now. I had been trying to avoid the concept of returning home so late without informing my dad, I know he's going to be livid, if not downright furious. But no matter what he yells into my face or whatever threat he hurls my way, it'll be worth it. Someone's staring. Those words projected to the front of my mind, voiceless. My eyes narrowed and reached for the edges of my view. A predatory gaze peeled past the shadows cast by buzzing fluorescents. Stricken by cold awareness, I tuned in to the frantic small noises all around me. The air vents above, a pencil tapping in some unknown direction, whispers. Then, like fishhooks in my skin popping loose, I felt a release and I lurched forward, dizzy. I caught myself on the frame of the lunchroom doors, eyes burning with dryness and throat on fire. The stench of garbage and rotten flesh filled my nostrils and forced me to gag out loud. What is this feeling? I thought, my own inner monologue distant. The wry pressure pinging all around me. It hurts. A footstep, retreating. Terrified, I shot my eyes in every direction, but nothing seemed out of place. I'm all alone.